The island where shadows had names. English Story Level 3. Far beyond the familiar shores of Crest Harbor, sailors whispered about an island that appeared only when the moon was full. They called it Shadowmere, a place where shadows acted strangely. Some were said to move without their owners. 16-year-old Jonah had always dismissed such tales, but one quiet night, while walking along the pier, he saw something impossible. A dark shape on the water rippled like a reflection, forming the outline of a landmass he had never seen before. The moonlight shimmered on the waves, revealing an island rising gently from the sea. Jonah felt a tug of curiosity stronger than fear. He borrowed a small boat and rowed toward the island, the air thickening with a strange coolness as he approached. When he stepped onto the pale shore, he noticed his shadow stretched long behind him, even though the moon was almost directly overhead. The trees nearby swayed without wind, their own shadows twisting independently. Jonah swallowed hard, but pressed on, determined to understand the mystery before him. The deeper he walked into the island, the more peculiar things became. His shadow occasionally flickered, as if whispering or trying to detach from him. He reached a clearing where dozens of shadows gathered, long, short, thin, wide-moving as if in silent conversation, but none had a physical form casting them. Jonah stepped forward cautiously, and the shadows turned toward him with gentle curiosity rather than hostility. A soft glow emerged from between the trees, revealing a tall figure with flowing robes made of midnight blue light. The figure introduced herself as Nisra, Keeper of Shadows. Her voice was calm, echoing like distant wind. She explained that Shadowmere was not an ordinary island but a sanctuary for forgotten shadows, those left behind by people who had grown too busy, too afraid, or too hardened to acknowledge parts of themselves. Shadows carried memories and emotions. When ignored for too long, they traveled to Shadowmere to find refuge. Jonah listened, mesmerized. Nisra told him that his own shadow had brought him here for a reason. She gestured toward the ground, and Jonah watched as his shadow separated from his feet, standing beside him like a silhouetted twin. It pointed toward his chest, then toward the sky, gestures Jonah didn't fully understand. Nisra explained that Jonah carried a quiet emptiness, a feeling he had pushed away for years since losing his father in a storm at sea. His shadow wanted him to face that grief. Jonah lowered his gaze, feeling a tightness in his throat. Memories flooded him, the laughter of his father, the stories he used to tell, the small wooden boat they once repaired together. Jonah had forced himself to be strong after the loss, believing emotions made him weak. As he stood there, his shadow placed a hand-shaped silhouette on his shoulder. Jonah felt warmth spread through him, a reassurance he hadn't known he needed. Nisra guided him to a stone archway carved with swirling figures. She explained that this place allowed people to confront the parts of themselves they had abandoned. Jonah stepped beneath the arch and felt a wave of emotion wash over him. He saw visions of his father teaching him to tie knots, lifting him onto his shoulders, guiding him through storms. The images grew brighter until Jonah felt himself sobbing quietly. But instead of falling apart, he felt something inside him settle like a wound finally allowed to breathe. When the vision faded, Jonah's shadow gently merged with him again. The weight in his chest had lifted. Nisra told him that shadows were not meant to be feared. They were reflections of truth. By accepting his grief, Jonah had restored balance between himself and his shadow. She thanked him for listening few humans ever did. Before he left, many of the island's loose shadows gathered around him, glowing faintly as if in gratitude. Jonah rowed back to Crest Harbor as dawn approached, the island slowly fading into mist behind him. When he stepped onto the familiar pier, he felt different, lighter, braver, more whole. His shadow matched his steps perfectly, no longer flickering away in sorrow. From that night onward, Jonah visited the pier often, watching the moon's reflection and listening to the waves. He no longer feared his emotions, and whenever he saw his shadow stretch along the boards, he smiled, knowing it no longer carried his pain alone.